Hello, I'm Dr. Semline Singleton, and I am honored to welcome you to our series, The Return Back to Haiti, Doing What Others Deemed Impossible. As a second generation Haitian American, I've always been deeply connected to Haiti's rich culture and resilient spirit. My journey led me to earn a PhD in international conflict management, where I focused on the return migration experience of first and second generation Haitian immigrants from the United States. This research opened my eyes to the profound personal stories of those who made the courageous decision to return to Haiti, stories filled with hope, challenges, and unwavering commitment. In this series, we delve into the lives of individuals who have embarked on this journey back to their ancestral homeland. Through their narratives, we aim to uncover the motivations, struggles, and triumphs that define the return migration experience. Our goal is to provide a platform for these voices, offering insights that challenge misconceptions and highlight the complexities of reintegration. Whether you're a part of the Haitian diaspora, interested in global migration, or passionate about development in Haiti, this series is for you. Together, let's explore what it truly means to return home and contribute to the ongoing story of Haiti's resilience and growth. Thank you for joining us on this journey.
At the National Alliance for the Advancement of Haitian Professionals, your support makes a difference. Every donation helps us empower Haitian professionals, strengthen our global community, and invest in the next generation of leaders. Scan the QR code or visit nhpusa.org/donate to give today. Merci en pile. Thank you for standing with us. At the National Alliance for
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you're logging in from. Thank you for being here. My name is Dr. Semline Singleton, and I am excited to do this virtual symposium on return migration. And this is part of my dissertation experience for my doctorate program, where I focused on anybody from the diaspora, specifically in the United States, that returned to Haiti or did the journey back to Haiti. And this kind of stemmed from when I was in the journey thinking about the Blaxit experience, especially after a lot of the Black Lives Matter situation. We've seen a large amount of people in the United States who are Black talk about leaving the country. And it dawned on me, like, why don't I talk about the experience of Haitians who are returning and what does that look like? And even after 2021, the assassination of our former president in Haiti, we just seen a lot of conversation about what does it look like for Haitians and those of the Haitian descent to return to Haiti. And so I am excited to start this conversation again with our guest, Khessia Rachelle, and a little bit about her. She is a native born in New York, but raised in South Florida. She's a doula, a longtime educator and consultant who splits her time between the United States and Haiti. She raises 7 goats with her husband when they're in Haiti and fumble their way through being culturally U.S. American in a different country. You can watch their journey on at nabalis.abroad on Instagram or at Khessia Rachelle on YouTube. Rachelle also co-founded an English school in southern Haiti with her family. Her passion from grassroots social justice work has manifested into connecting generous and conscious people in the States to local Haitian folk requiring assistance during their birth, pregnancy, and their postpartum periods. Sometimes we're just getting the most basic of human needs met for birthers, like safe housing and food. She serves as an in-person doula in southern Haiti and virtually supports clients in the States with a focus on Black reproductive health. I would like to welcome Khessia Rachelle to our virtual series.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you for being here, and we can jump right in because a lot of the conversation will stem around your journey and background information. So take us through, let's talk about your background. In my research, I identified those who were born of Haitian parents in the U.S. as second generation. So would you consider yourself a second generation immigrant?
Definitely. Sometimes when I'm talking to people, I say I'm Haitian American, a little bit more American than Haitian. So that definitely impacted the way that I went back to Haiti and the way that I viewed it and the experience entirely. So I'm not even going to pretend I'm first generation. I am second generation Haitian.
Absolutely. Thank you. So let's talk about the beginning phases of the return process. When I say beginning, the beginning. So talk about the background a little bit of what led to, hey, I think we should move to Haiti, and then like that transitional period. So talk through that a little bit.
Sure. I do want to say thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I love that there are organizations like this that are making room for people to have conversations around this. In the circles that I'm running through, people are talking about it more, especially having seen myself and my family go through it. They have questions and they are wondering things. And it seems like there's a pattern in the concerns that people have. So it's great that y'all have this going. So honored to be a part of this symposium. Um, when I started to consider going back to Haiti, it was more of it was a family decision. And so even in my bio, you read that I founded a school with my family. It was the middle of COVID, and people were kind of looking at their options and what they could do. My parents were talking about possibly returning to Haiti, retiring, building, and they're like, "Hey, do you want a room? Should we prepare a room for you?" And so my husband and I got into conversation. I just got married in 2019, and in 2020, we were in Atlanta, and he was about to graduate from university, and so we were kind of talking about what's next. And so Haiti became part of the possibility of what next. Stay in Georgia, like, are we going to go to another state? And then it was like, are we going to go to another country? And so Haiti became an option. And so it was interesting, though, because it wasn't one that was like, we had been planning for a long time. The offer was brought to us in 2019. No, the offer was brought to us in 2020. The decision was made in 2020. So it was pretty quick. I wouldn't say that I was the kind of person that imagined myself going to live in Haiti in my teens, in my 20s. This was a decision that was made in my 30s. I always thought that maybe I'd like go back and start something with my mom, who always had a heart for children without parents and wanted to start an orphanage, and my love of education. I was like, oh, maybe my mom and I could team up one day. But it was like this long, long off fantasy. And so when it became real, we had to start thinking about the logistics of, well, how do you move a life to Haiti? And because it was our family, my mother and father, my sister and her child, myself and my husband, it was like, how do you get 3 families to Haiti? What does that look like? And we hadn't really seen anybody do it before. So a lot of planning around shipping and moving and things like that. There was a transitional period. And I think we'll get more into that later. But, the move was one highly based in faith, because it wasn't something that my husband and I had talked about or planned for. When we were dating, it wasn't something we discussed. In engagement, it wasn't something we discussed. We were planning like what 5 years ahead of the roadmap looked like. But the beginning phases, I definitely want to say there was some anxiety because there's a lot of unknowns, because there really wasn't a whole lot of representation of Americans, the people who like really had a life set, grounded. United States of America is all I know. It's the only country I've ever lived in. Picking up and going to Haiti. But it felt like the right time for the adventure. We prayed and fasted about it a lot, and doors started to close in every other aspect. Other options started to close, and I became the only one that was open. And so, we tried that option, and I think it was no regrets. I have to say that. It was hard. It was awkward. There was a lot to learn, but no regrets. There were a lot of benefits from it.
Thank you. Yes. And we will share a little bit more. And we're transitioning to like in the thick of it. So you all got to Haiti, right? And you moved. Let's talk about the transition into moving. So you said you had to ship everything. Did you all have a house, a family home? And what was that transition getting acclimated to an area you probably like visiting and living are two different things. And we know that. So the transition into living, let's talk to the while in Haiti. Like, what was that like?
Okay, so a couple things for context that are important to know. Both of my parents are from the same province. They're from the same neighborhood. They live on perpendicular streets. That's where they came from, and so we were going back to the laku. We were going back to the yard on my maternal side. And so I had visited when I was 15 and 16, and now I was 35 going to live. And it was a very different experience because there was no family home. There was family land, but the buildings on the family land were not something that you could take. I don't know. It was 5 of us who went in transition before, 5 or 6 of us. Um, my parents actually went first, and they started with the process of construction because there wasn't a livable place for us. And then on my paternal side, though, there is a family home, but that is shared between 3 sets of siblings. And so it's more like whenever somebody's visiting, they come stay there. But it wasn't really, what would I say? It wasn't ready to handle the load of 6 of us staying there because there were already other families there. You know, a lot of times in the Haitian tradition, there is someone who kind of stays in your house when the diaspora aren't there. And so they were already there. So we stayed with family friends. We stayed with family friends for, I want to say, about 3 months. Nope, 5 months. It was a 5 month stay, and it was difficult, mostly because you've got 2 people who were married, and we were in our own place in Georgia, our own 2-bedroom home with a yard and lots of space and lots of privacy. And now we were sharing a living room with like 3 other people, 4 other people, 5 other people, depending on who was in the country and who wasn't. But we would take daily trips down to the construction site, and that's where we spent most of our days, just kind of overseeing, talking to contractors, making sure things were getting built the way that we liked. I'd have to say a really important part of the process is making sure to stay incredibly involved when working with contractors from other countries. That transition for 5 months was really physically because of the sharing of the space. Thankfully, right before we got there, our host family made sure to get like, and this is gonna seem, some people are gonna get this, some people are not gonna see how important this is. They made sure to get a toilet, a running water. They made sure to get an indoor shower, all those kinds of things, which really changed the game as far as comforts and feeling normal. Reducing some of the stress of making that major move. There was no AC. The room that we slept in for the first month had only one window, and it wasn't properly ventilated. But our host family was so hospitable, so sweet. They did everything they could, including making sure to remodel and make sure that there was a bathroom with running water for us to be able to use and have that kind of privacy. Because that's not always the experience when you go to Haiti, depending on where you are, especially if you're out in the provinces. But we had that, and so that eased things a bit. The emotional transition was difficult because of, some of the things that I mentioned before, being a newly married couple and then going in and now you live at home again. Financially was a bit of a difficult transition as well, COVID. And so like that definitely impacted a lot of people financially, specifically our families as well. But my husband was working from home, which was different when you leave a whole country. So we had to make sure there was internet connection. And so a lot of our expenses went to making sure we stayed connected. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other part of the transition process that's really important to share, or if anything I missed. No, I think we tried to have a good time. We tried to enjoy each other's company. We tried to make like the good things as good as possible. The food was amazing, so we tried to focus on making sure there was always food and nobody ever felt like they didn't have while we transitioned. But it was fun.
Yes, and no, that was good. And the next is, so is living in Haiti sustainable? So let's talk about the sustainability of you living in Haiti. Y'all are in your house now. It's 5 months. Y'all in your own home, the family home. Let's talk about the sustainable living. Like, getting to a grocery, getting groceries, not even grocery store, getting groceries,
Mm-hmm.
everyday living, like if you want to work out, like what is like the sustainability of living in Haiti coming from the United States, where so much things are accessible like right there, or you have the convenience of things. What has shifted in the sustainability of living in Haiti?
Okay, that's a really good question because those are the kinds of things that we had to figure out as we were going through. What would make this feel like life, like living, like I'm here for real now? And I think that that phrase was actually used for many times when people would call and be like, "How you doing? When are you coming back?" It's like, no, I live here. And so the ways that we tried to make that sustainable was like it's some of the little things. Finding your favorite street food person, your favorite street food vendor, the one that you trust, the know that one when you eat their food, you're not gonna get diarrhea, like that one. Finding your bank, making sure that you have a bank account and it's not too far from you, so you can access it when you need, and it's in a safe-ish area, so you can walk there. I did. Transportation was important. We had one family car that we shared. Without it, it would have been very difficult. But our host family also had a moto. So, like, if we needed to do a quick errand and the family car was out, we could jump on the moto. And we lived downtown in a province area, so it was pretty walkable. So, those were some things that were important, getting from one place to another. Um, as far as like having access to food, there are some provinces where like everything is cemented, so people aren't growing too much of their own things. We made sure that when we got on our own property, that we started growing things even before we were in the house. We started growing plantain. I want to say a year before the house was constructed, we were already putting up plantain trees, plantain, papaya. The cherry trees are already there. The mango trees are already there. We use those to supplement, and so um, it was nice because we'd have fresh food all the time. And when we had a surplus, we could share with other people. My husband and I ended up, I want to say, in our second year, started trying to grow eggplant and tomatoes, which was great when it came in season. We actually sold some of it in the market, and we happened to live someplace that wasn't far from a market at all. And so there was it was a bit more expensive than the open air farmers market that was, I want to say, like a 20-minute ride. Nope, not even. Maybe like a 12-minute ride from where we stayed. And there you could buy food in bulk, fresh from farmers, from merchants who were doing some reselling. So you get like a giant sack of onions, and like it was like the Costco of Haiti, which was nice. So every other week we actually had a schedule where we would send somebody to market if we didn't go ourselves. So we might send that person out to market at 7 a.m. to start getting things, and then we would send another person out with the family car, oftentimes my dad, to go pick them up and pick up the bulk, whatever we purchased. And that would be food for 2 weeks. And we would just like, storage was important. So we had to build an outdoor kitchen with different ways to store. We needed electricity in order to have a refrigerator and a freezer so that we can keep these foods, because a lot of people live day to day. They go by what they need that day because they don't have electricity. And so there's no storing. And so in order to make things sustainable, we had to get generators, we had to get gas, we got solar panels in order to make sure that we had more access to electricity. Um, my parents ended up building, well, my mother ended up having a small boutique where she would sell ice and juice and other things. So that became a source of income. It also became a great point. And for our students, it was where they would kind of hang out before class and hang out after class. And so it kind of gave these nice goalposts for community to continue to grow in our yard. I would say to the point where now our school is well known, our family is not well known. Not that we're famous or that everybody loves us, but at least there's an awareness that we're in the community. And there's a level of community support because of the things that have come through our family trying to make our own life sustainable. And so, yeah, so I think electricity, transportation, finding a support staff, right? So like when I was there, a lot of times people were like, oh, would you like me to call the servant for you? It's like, you mean the support staff? Like the person that we pay in order to cook, to clean, and all these other things so that we can run a school. Because it's hard to watch your laundry by hand and also be ready to teach classes 4 times a week. And so getting staff to support you was a huge part of making life sustainable. And that is a symposium all by itself. Like I'm telling you, it's very difficult to hire, to find folks who possibly work at your standards. You have to become really great at educating people. Then there's cultural differences that can make people feel pretty sensitive, and sometimes we feel sensitive too. The interactions were difficult. I want to say that our family went through at least 10 different cooks in 3 years.
Wow.
And that is a shared experience, because when we talk to other people who are first or second generation who had family homes there or returning there or came from there, it was just like, yeah, finding great support staff is always difficult. So I would prepare for that challenge. But it's a huge part of making life sustainable. Huge for the people you trust.
Yeah. If you don't mind sharing what part of Haiti, like the big city of where you're from, because I am interviewing different people from different parts, so the perspective of people hearing, I want them to distinguish that not all parts are the same, and so if you don't mind sharing what part of Haiti you were in.
Yeah, so I can say that we're in southern Haiti, about 2 hours by car from Port-au-Prince if you head south. In between, like I want to say about an hour from Jacmel, 3.5 hours from Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like in that strip down there. Yeah, not too far from Miragon. That's where we're at.
Okay. Yes. And so that was great, talking about the sustainability of living in Haiti. And it's a real experience. I know people want to know, like, is it sustainable? Like, can I live? And yes, to hearing you speak, it is definitely. And I kind of shared too, like, people would often, when I speak to people about my research, they was like, well, they're hiring servants and maids and things like that, or people go get their food. I was like, well, we have DoorDash, we have Instacart. Like, people are shopping for us and bringing our groceries to our door. I don't think there's much of a difference that people are doing there than here, or people hire cleaners. Like, I think the shifting of the mind frame of you have to make the system where you are work for you. And so that's right. And so let's go into our next phase and talking about how has returning affected your everyday life. So let's talk about the benefits. And so I heard you talk about you grew your own food, and what did that do for you? What was the mental aspect, the good benefit of the mental aspect of moving, and the everyday living? What are the benefits to that?
I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of things that I mentioned make the logistics possible, but they're also so important for mental health. Because if you're not ready for the transition, and I don't know that anybody can ever be entirely ready for the transition. It's kind of like when they're like, you'll never be ready for kids. It's going to be hard to be ready to move to a whole other country. There's going to be some changes that hit you hard, ones that you didn't even realize it was going to hit you as hard as it did. But the benefits, I have to say, when you get to a place where the transition is not as difficult, the benefits were many. I would say first and foremost, the physiological benefits. We lived on the water. And so being able to hear the waves, being able to see the ocean waves, like little simple things. We spent more time outside. And so we talk about things like digital detoxes where you get off your phone. And because sometimes there's no electricity for hours, what are you doing on your phone? Oftentimes people live outside more than they live inside. Inside is where they sleep. Inside is where safety is. But the day is spent outside in sunshine. The day is spent outside working. The day is spent outside socializing with people. So you're getting fresh air and sunlight all the time. Chances are it's not going to be a smooth, level plane. So a lot of times you're climbing uphill. These are a lot of the specific factors that are noted when it comes to people who live in blue zones, those large clusters where people live to 100, climbing uphill, getting fresh air, being social, eating like real food. And so I just knew I could feel the physical benefits. One of the ways that we definitely could track the physical benefits of being in Haiti, when we were in Georgia, both myself and my husband were getting chiropractic care. We would experience lower back pain all the time. And our chiropractor definitely cited that as like inflammation is a big part of that. And so a lot of the foods that we eat in the United States of America cause inflammation, even as you're like buying fresh produce, because of the nature of how we transport from such long distances. Every single day that passes, the nutrients are being lost from the food. Sometimes when you freeze it, you can capture it, but not all foods are, stored that way. And so when you can literally go outside, pick up a papaya off a tree, peel it, make legume out of it, it has a lot more nutrients for your body. We were composting. Our soil was more nutrient dense. We were eating a lot more vegetables and a lot less meat and a lot less dairy. It didn't take very long for us to realize that both of us weren't experiencing back pain anymore. And we weren't seeing a chiropractor. And so already our bodies were responding differently. I learned while in Haiti that my body really enjoys heat. So going from Georgia, where I lived in Florida, South Florida for a while, born in New York, moved to South Florida at 14, spent about 15 years there. Then I went to Georgia and I experienced temperate winters again, and my body did not enjoy it. And then flash forward going to Haiti. I struggled with the heat, like the intensity, but my body really enjoyed the heat and responded really well to it. So those were some of the benefits. And I think in some ways too, in Haiti, there's some freedom. And I don't even know, there's a part, sometimes I say Haiti's like the wild, wild west. There's a lot of things you can get away with in Haiti that are a lot more regulated in the United States of America. So some people might actually see that as a benefit. You have your land, and most likely there's no municipalities that are going to tell you you can't have this many chickens or goats on your land. It's as many as you want, as many as you can keep alive. And so I would say that's another benefit in some ways for people who are looking for less federal or state regulation. Haiti has its benefits. And then there were other little things like being around animals more often. My mother's a lover of animals, so was my grandmother. My grandmother kept birds, lots of pigeons. And when we got to Haiti, we got dogs, started with 2, now we have 5. We kept chickens, we kept goats. And that kind of watching animals go through their cycles and live and move and breathe and have babies, and even the death cycles teaches you a lot about where your food comes from, how to care for things. There was just so much to learn. We were constantly learning. We were learning what goes into building a house from scratch. We were learning constantly doing creative problem solving. In some ways, it brought us together as a family. And I think all of us had our own moments for growth. So I could talk for a while about the benefits. They're micro to macro. There are a lot of benefits of being there for so long.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And with benefits, of course, there has to be, I don't want to say challenges, but experiences that shape the living experience, good and bad. And so speak to any personal experiences or interaction that help shape your living experience, good or bad. So after the benefits, I know there's benefits, but good or bad, what helped shape interactions and things like that help shape the experience?
I want to say definitely something that made me call my whole personality and temperament into question was the way that I responded to the way that people responded to me. And so I took very personally every single eye being on you as you walk by. And I was just like, oh, why is everybody staring at me? Stop looking at me. This is horrible. I hate it. I'm not going outside. But realizing you can't live life inside for 2 weeks. So I had to go outside. I had to learn how to just ignore people constantly staring at me. I felt, I want to say a lot of times very shy because I felt like my Creole was not very strong. And the moment I opened my mouth, people would definitely know I wasn't from there and might want to try to take advantage of me. I was very, very guarded and protected of myself. But over time, just having to interact with people as far as being an administrator or being a receptionist at the school, having to register students constantly, having to have conversations, or sometimes people would say things that were offensive and offended me, and I had to move through it. I either cried about it later, or I came back with a quick comeback, or I completely ignored it, or whatever it had to be, but it made me a much stronger administrator. It made me increase my Haitian Creole language skills a lot. I just couldn't be shy as much anymore. Like I had to speak up for myself. I couldn't just wait for my parents to speak Creole for me. And so those benefits are endless because even now, as I've returned to the United States and I'm in positions where I'm interacting with Haitian adults and young people, I'm a lot more comfortable because I was in a position where I had to speak for myself. And so like my language skills increased, my confidence in myself increased when it came to doing business deals with all kinds of people, negotiating. I was never the kind of person who would like to like fight for, oh, I want this for this price. I'd be like, forget it. If you're not going to put a sticker on it with a price, like this is the States, and you want to jack it up because I'm American, I'm just not going to buy it. Forget it. But I had to learn how to negotiate, and it was really good for me. So I would say those things I definitely saw as challenges before, barriers to feeling comfortable, but benefited me and are benefiting me even now in life outside of Haiti.
No, that's good. Thank you for sharing. And we're coming to a wrap up here, but others find this journey impossible to do. So what advice would you leave with today or encourage someone who wants to take this bold step or who is in the transition right now, who is in the thick of it and just considering like, should they continue to stay or should they continue to live their life in Haiti?
Okay. So this is for someone who is already in Haiti and is trying to figure out if they should keep going. For that person, I would say, remember why you went. You really have to know the intention of why you're going to Haiti. If you're going for a little adventure, then, figure out what your timeline is and how long you want that adventure to be for. If you are going because you want to see how live a life, set up a system so that even if your children wanted to live in Haiti, they could do that comfortably, then understand that's going to take time. A counselor of mine told me something that was incredibly important. She told me that on average, it takes people about 2.5 years to transition. So I would say, if you are serious about transitioning, then you gotta try to make it through the 2.5 years. And sometimes with Haiti, it can be challenging to travel back and forth, but don't take that completely out. You don't have to stay in Haiti for 2.5 years straight with no reprieve or going anyplace else. Explore the country, learn things, try new things. Come back to the States or Canada or wherever else you might be from periodically. Catch that breather. You'll find actually that sometimes when you come back, you'll miss some things about Haiti that you just can't get here. And so the accessibility and convenience is great, but there's some things that other countries ain't giving that Haiti's giving. I would definitely say it's important to have a strong support system. I'd have to say that my sister been so great at being open to learning how these things go in Haiti, processes, finding lawyers, the bureaucratic legislative part of it. So if that's not your thing, you definitely want to have somebody in your support circle that you trust or somebody who's traveling with you who's finding out, what those things look like, what it means. Or find somebody who's gone that way before. Talk to them. Learn from them and learn what it looks like to build those structures where you are. Even if you don't come exactly from the province that we're from, anywhere you go, any country you go, you're going to need to find people that you can trust, that know the system, that can help you figure out the ins and outs. And I think that makes the transition easier, that makes settling in, making things sustainable easier. You've got to trust the people around you. You've got to know why you're doing it, and you've got to give yourself the time to acclimate to this huge change. Moving to another country, no matter which country it is, whether you've got experience with it, emotional baggage with it, a history with it or not, huge change. And so you have to give yourself grace for that, and room to grow into that change.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. As we're closing and we're wrapping up, I thank you, Khessia Rachelle, for being here, sharing your story, sharing your intake, sharing anything, your experience, because there are people who are asking questions a lot more these days. are asking questions. And this just proves kind of my research again. Why did my research? Why I published my dissertation on Haitians returning, because it's such an important topic that needs to be discussed more on an open platform. And so I thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your vulnerability and ability to share to others and other Haitians that this is possible. Like, it may seem impossible, what you may see in the news may be disheartening, but people have done it and it is possible. So thank you.
You're very welcome. I will say this. Even though I'm in the States now, I'm very much preparing for what going back will look like. What have I learned? How can I make it even better? And what would it look like to, build someplace else to expand, because there's room to. So thank you for having me on. I really appreciate this, and I would love to connect with people who want to have these conversations. I think it's so good to have. So I hope that y'all continue doing this work of creating space for people to think about this, reflect on this, ask about it, learn about it.
Yes. And lastly, I know we mentioned where we can find you in the beginning, but reiterate where people can find you to see your stories, to read your story, and to the experience that you share.
Yeah, so my husband and I decided that wherever God sends us, it's an adventure that we want to share about. And so on YouTube, you can find our page. You can find our podcast episodes. You can find them anywhere. You can find podcasts. It's called the Nabali Adventure. On YouTube, on my page specifically, Khessia Rachelle. That's Khessia Rachell. Spelled the French way. You can find those episodes as well. And we get to share like what the adventures have been like, what the impact on our marriage, our individual experiences, and kind of comparing the two cultures. So you can reach out to us there. And then I'm also on Instagram, Khessia Rachelle. Send me a message. We can talk. I definitely want to give room for people to talk about this really important subject, because as Haitians, it's important for us to know we have options. You can go back home.
All right.